Hello friends, welcome here. Loki's episode 5 introduced a smoke monster called Alioth, which is hanging out in the void at the end of time, and is connected to Kang the Conqueror in the comic and acts as a wall between him and the variants. Alioth, also known as Alioth the Usurper, is recognized as Marvel Comics' first entity to break away from the flow of time. The mighty beast was able to control realities throughout time, but it was always stopped at the end of time at the barrier of Chronopolis, Kang's home. Loki and Sylvie are able to enchant Alioth and utilize it to discover what lies beyond the vacuum in this week's Loki episode, Journey into Mystery. They open a portal to what looks to be Chronopolis, a metropolis in space. The creature's presence in the void would have been enough to suggest Kang was involved with the TVA, but the reveal in the last scene cemented the connection. Alioth appears to be the ultimate stumbling block between Kang and the rest of the timeline. Of course, Loki and Sylvie could have made a mistake by revealing the Chronopolis gateway. Alioth may reside in the void not only to devour variants, but also to serve as a barrier between Kang and the timeline he seeks to conquer. Now that there is nothing in the way, it might signal disaster for the entire timeline. Alioth's tenure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe may not be over. Kang really sets Alioth loose in the TVA's territory at one time in the comics. It wouldn't be unexpected to see a variant of this in Loki's conclusion, especially after Mobius stated that he wanted to blow down the TVA. The void at the end of time, as other Loki variants explained it, is best compared as a shark tank, with Alioth as the shark. The monster is described as a living tempest that consumes matter and energy, and it appears to be more like an animal than a person, content to graze on the strewn debris of the TVA's timelines dumped into the abyss. You can survive a brief encounter with Alioth's smoke tendrils, but if you are completely devoured, you dissolve, apparently giving Alioth with food. It's logical to think Alioth wasn't always this big, but it's gotten bigger as it feeds. While Alioth appears to be capable of dissolving non-organic matter, it is particularly drawn to live creatures. Alioth claims itself to be the first entity to break free from the confines of time in the comics. Alioth feeds on temporal energy, and anybody or anything that spends too much time in its mass gets absorbed into it. This implies that time travelers like Kang provide Alioth with a particularly rich source of energy. It commands the first few billion years of the universe's past, far before the advent of man, and dominates a large chunk of limbo, the spatial plane that time travelers use to jump through time. Surprisingly, when Alioth takes control of a section of limbo, the time periods associated with that section of the dimension are progressively absorbed into it as well. Alioth is Kang the Conqueror's sworn opponent, commanding an empire twice or possibly 3 times the size of his rival. It is only stopped from spreading farther throughout limbo by another temporal creature, Tempest, who possesses similar absorption skills, meaning the two are forever at odds at the very edge of Alioth's domain, neither able to defeat the other, and all time and space are doomed if Tempest ever falls. The MCU's version of Alioth, as shown in Loki, is essentially similar to the comics, but instead of ruling the first few billion years of creation, it now dwells in the abyss at the end of time. Unlike the comics, though, it does not appear to be particularly intelligent, rather, it appears to be an animal in search of food, hungry to eat. Alioth, as Loki accurately deduced, serves as a guard dog, stopping anyone from gaining access to the true power underlying the Timekeepers. Given Alioth's connections to Kang in the comics, it's hardly surprising that he's the true mastermind behind the TVA in Loki. Kang is set to appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, played by Jonathan Majors. While Majors has denied being in Loki, he wouldn't be the first Marvel actor to lie. Furthermore, the emptiness appears to be thematically akin to Purgatory, the Great Forgetting, or the Lost Zone, a region Kang has visited on several occasions, as seen in the Avengers Forever saga. Alioth might have been recast as Kang's pawn rather than his foe in the MCU, but it could still pose a threat if it is ever permitted to leave the void and infiltrate the timeline. To know more about Alioth and what happens in Loki, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. Please support me by liking this video and leaving a comment. See you soon.